You know when you try to retell a friend's hilarious story and you have to kind of tweak their words to make it work? Like she said, "I can't believe I did that," becomes, "She said she couldn't believe she'd done that." That little switch right there, that's what we're going to break down today. It's called reported speech, and getting a handle on it is a game changer for how you tell stories. So let's dive in.
First up, we'll get the basics down. What's the real difference between quoting someone and just reporting what they said? Then we'll get into the golden rule of backshifting tenses. After that, we'll look at how to deal with trickier stuff, like questions and commands, and even when it's okay to break the rules. We'll wrap things up by looking at how picking just the right verb can add a ton of flavor and meaning to your sentences.
All right, let's start right at the beginning. Before we get into any of the fancy rules, we have to be absolutely crystal clear on the two main ways we talk about what someone else has said. This is the foundation for, well, everything else.
Okay, take this sentence. I love ice cream. Super simple, right? This is what we call direct speech. You can almost hear her saying it. The two dead giveaways are the quotation marks and the fact that we are getting her exact word-for-word statement.
Think of direct speech like hitting the record button. You're just playing back exactly what you heard. It's all about keeping that authentic voice, their specific words, their original tense, the whole shebang.
But now, look at this version. She said that she loved ice cream. The meaning, totally the same. But the delivery is different, see? The quotation marks are gone, the pronouns switched from I to she, and check out the verb, love became loved. This right here is indirect or reported speech.
So with indirect speech, the goal isn't a perfect word-for-word quote. It's all about reporting the meaning of what was said. You're basically summarizing their point and weaving it into your own sentence. And that means you gotta make a few little adjustments to make it fit. This table really lays it all out, side by side. For direct speech, you've got your quotation marks, the original tense, original pronouns. It's a snapshot. But with indirect speech, those quotes vanish, the tense often takes a step back, we'll get to that, and the pronouns have to be adjusted to your perspective as the narrator. All right, let's zoom in on that idea of the tense shifting back. This is probably the single most important rule in all of reported speech. It's called backshifting, and honestly, once you get this, everything else just kind of clicks into place. So here's the golden rule. Most of the time when you're telling a story, you're reporting something that was said in the past. You use words like she said or he told me. And because that act of speaking happened in the past, it's only logical that the verb in the sentence you're reporting also takes one little step back in time. Let's see it in action, because it makes it so much clearer. If someone says, I write, in the simple present, you report it as he wrote in the simple past. If they say, I am writing, it becomes he was writing. You see the pattern? Present perfect, I have written, takes one step back to the past perfect, he had written. It's a really consistent, logical step backwards.
And what about other tenses? Well, the pattern just keeps on going. If the original statement was already in the past, like I wrote, it moves one step further back, all the way to the past perfect, he had written. Even future and modal verbs follow the rule. I will write becomes he would write, and I can write becomes he could write.
Of course, it's not just about the verbs. To make the reported sentence make sense from your point of view, other little words have to shift too. Pronouns like I obviously become he or she. Time words like today become that day. And place words like here become there. It's all about re-anchoring what was said into your present moment of telling the story.
Okay, so we've got statements down, you're a pro. But what happens when people ask questions or give commands? The rules need a little tweak, but you'll see the same core logic is still there. Let's start with a classic yes or no question, like this one. Are you coming? Now, to report this, we need to do more than just drop the quotation marks. The whole sentence structure has to change. There's a really simple three-step recipe for this. First, you kick things off with if or whether. Second, and this is super important, you flip the word order from a question back to a normal statement. So are you becomes if you are. And third, you just apply our good old backshifting rule. So are becomes was. Put it all together. He asked if I was coming. Boom.
So what about those questions that start with words like who, what, or where? The logic is almost exactly the same. You keep that question word, but you guessed it, you still have to flip the rest of the sentence back to statement order. Where are you going becomes he asked where I was going. Notice the question mark is gone too, because it's not a direct question anymore.
In commands? Oh, you're going to love this. It's even simpler. We just use an infinitive. So, a positive command like sit down becomes she told me to sit down. A negative one like don't be late becomes she told me not to be late. See? So easy.
Okay, now that you've mastered the golden rule of backshifting, it's time to learn when to break it. Because, yep, there are specific situations where changing the tense is actually the wrong move. So, when do you get to break the rule? Well, there are three main scenarios. First, if you're reporting in the present tense, like he says, instead of he said. Second is when you're talking about a universal truth or a general fact. And the third is when the thing that was said is still true right now as you are speaking.
Let's take that universal truth exception. Think about this quote, "We make the world with our thoughts." This isn't something that was only true for a second when it was first spoken. It's presented as a timeless idea, right? So when we report it, look what happens. The verb make stays right there in the present tense. If we backshifted it and said we made the world, it would subtly imply that maybe that's not true anymore. For these timeless facts, the logic of backshifting just doesn't apply, so we keep the original tense to preserve that universal meaning. Okay, we've made it to our final section, and this one is where you can really elevate your communication from just being correct to being truly precise and expressive. The verb you choose to report with, it matters a lot.
Just look at the difference here. She said she would call me. Fine. It's neutral. It gives you the information. But she insisted she would call me. That tells you so much more about the tone, about her determination. The reporting verb is your number one tool for getting across the feeling behind the words.
And honestly, said is just the tip of the iceberg. You have this huge toolkit of other verbs at your disposal. Instead of said, you could say someone acknowledged a fact, argued a point, recommended an action, or stressed a detail. Each one adds its own specific flavor, making your communication way more vivid and precise.
So let's end with this thought. Reporting what someone else said is never just a neutral copy and paste job. Through the verbs you choose, the way you shift the tenses, and the very act of putting it into your own words, you are always, in some small way, shaping a narrative. It's a subtle but really powerful part of how we all communicate.